no, you tried using a company laptop and a MacBook Air, not even a MacBook Pro, to download the full contents of Osama bin Laden's hard drive.
Yeah, you can't download anything on a MacBook Air, especially Osama bin Laden's hard drive because it's so large.
We're back. Hey, everyone. It's Aaron.
And Emily.
And Emily. It's okay, Emily. We've only been doing this for months.
It's going to be 3 years later, and I'm still not going to know how to pronounce my name.
The phonetic name that is Emily. Yeah, it's going to be really hard. Really good. You know what I love? That Emily and I both did Trace Gallagher on Fox News last week. I was on his show Thursday, and Emily was there Friday. And I really appreciate that they get my name down exactly. You know, that's a tough feat. And
Yeah,
I would actually always tell the person, you know, like when they mic you up, and I always say to the guy miking me up, I'm always like, I'm just letting you know in advance, there's going to be so much earwax on this thing. Like, don't be grossed out. And I say that just because in case there is, you know what I mean? Just in case there is.
Just in case.
I have waxy ass ears. It's like, I could always tell which ones are my headphones.
Just to be fair, sir. No, they're really nice. And I got to go on with Alex Villanueva, who's our fave sheriff in town, as I say.
You have a lot. There's a lot happening in I didn't realize that he sits in California, but it makes sense because, okay, I'm going to make fun of the person who was on air with me for a second. I don't even remember his name, so it doesn't matter. But like, if people wanted to figure it out, they could. But I looked back at the clip so I could post it on X. And as I was speaking, the guy was smiling like a movie star, like too much. And then he winked at the camera. How cringe is that? Is that so
Ew,
funny?
why?
I think he just was overdoing it on air.
Ew.
I know.
That's weird.
It was weird.
Well, they asked me, like, I think our last question was like, I guess some woman in like college was like going to take some huge exam and like pass for, I don't know, maybe she's trying to be a lawyer or something, but she just had a baby and they weren't allowing her. They were like, you need to go there and take the test or else we're like failing you or whatever. And I was like, honestly, I feel like kind of a piece of shit saying this, but my reaction to that story, I have to know what her political party is and how she voted. Because if she's a liberal, I'd be like, well, what do you expect? You're a woman. You're not special anymore. You wanted to be treated like a man and for everything to be equal. So yeah, like get your ass up and go take the test with like, you know, your belly and like organs hanging out or whatever's happening to you right now. And then if she was a Republican, I'd be like, that's absolutely insane. Women should be a protected species and you should let her take that as soon as she's done doing the most beautiful thing in the world. So,
but I always say that to the liberal women when they're like, women are the same as men. We're exactly like, not that like we're spiritually equal. Yeah, but we're not, we're like our genders are different. So I always say, okay, then a guy should be able to punch you in the face. You know, like remember that there was like a phase I remember at one point in life where women were like didn't want men holding the door open for them. There was like a time where that was a fad, that was a trend to be mad when a man held the door open for you. And I remember saying like, okay, then a guy should be able to get into a bar fight with you too. Weird.
Yeah, it's like, okay, so can a guy punch you in the face then if it's like self-defense? If you go and like mouth off at a bar and he like hits you directly in the face, like is that you wanting to be treated equal? Because at that point, it's just two homies hashing things out.
Exactly. Talking about a homie that could just punch you out in a bar. Bruce Jenner, now known as Caitlyn Jenner, might be running for governor of California.
My queen.
How do you feel about this?
I would 100% vote for him.
Yeah. I mean, he's obviously...
I love him.
He's obviously way better than Gavin Newsom, but he's an interesting pick because I feel like he bothers too many people on both sides, you know?
That would be so funny though, because the campaign would be amazing because it'd be like, I would be like, you know, as the Republican everyone hates, I'd be like, I'm proudly voting for my first transgender candidate to run California. And so no one on the other side could talk shit, but then it would be really funny just in general because like I feel like he's kind of hated on both sides. But like, let's be real.
I feel like he's kind of like the Carrie Lake of California, where like there are people that like him, but like Carrie Lake like is really just liked by so many people within the party itself. That I just know I know so many people who really don't like her. And I even ask people, like, tell me what it is you don't like about her. I'm not even giving my own opinion. I'm not telling you if I like her or don't. But I'll just ask people, what do you think? And the number of Republicans will say to me, she's crazy. I'm like, okay, but like what makes her crazy? Like I ask people, like there's just one of these like broad stroke opinions about her that people really don't like her. And maybe, and by the way, to anyone who's listening to this, like I'm sure there are reasons for people on both sides, like liking and disliking. But I feel like Bruce Jenner has the same thing going for him, where like there are people that don't like that he transitioned, or they don't like how he abandoned like 2 families, or like what, there's a lot there. But also he has like pretty based political ideas for the most part, except for the gender. I mean, even he's also against kids undergo.
Yeah.
He's less radical than a liberal white woman on it, right?
I mean, if anyone was gonna run California, it should be a transgender person. It's like really the only thing that makes sense. And it's crazy to think that a transgender person would do a million times better of a job than a normal Democrat like Gavin Newsom, who's like literally just it's set on destroying this entire state. Like literally my girlfriend's here from New York and she's just like, what is happening? A guy just got robbed yesterday. Another homeless guy was just on a stabbing spree. I mean, people are getting robbed at like the nicest area with like, it's crazy too, because there's drones, there's cameras, there's all these things. And I'm like, maybe we just need a bold transgender person in charge. And I love him because he's always at my favorite spots. He's always in Malibu and he's always at Nobu. So I know that he has taste and I like that about him.
That's such a good point, though, that like who's more mentally deranged, a leftist who's already in power, or a trans woman? I think the answer is very obvious. Obviously, the leftist. Yeah. Well, I always say like that. Who's more mentally ill? Someone who thinks that they're trans, or someone who supports people thinking that they're trans? And I think it's the latter. I think that like I think there must be something messed up in your brain. And I have sympathy for people. Like I think a lot of people, obviously, especially now, they're like this like social cluster effects where people, especially with young girls, that it's like really a contagion, and that's why a lot of people say that they're trans. But there are people, like Bruce is probably one of them, that he's had this issue for most of his, like probably his whole adult life, at least, if not even like from teenhood and everything. He has a problem. And there's something chemical in his brain that I believe just like his wires are messed up. There's something imbalanced, and he really, really feels this way, right? So I believe he thinks it's the truth. Now, Gavin Newsom and his ilk and all these people on the left and these liberal women where they have like 3 kids and they're all trans and like demisexual and whatever the fuck these phrases are, like that woman is more mentally ill because they're not actually trans, and they could sit here without the mental illness, without the chemicals in their brains, telling, I think of trans people as like schizophrenics. Like, no, there isn't someone talking to you and saying that they're going to kill you, which is what schizophrenics will think, right? Like they like actually see an alternate reality. But like, so with the trans person, I think that like someone's truly trans, they truly have an issue. If you don't have that in your brain, then what's your excuse for indulging someone and supporting them? You don't tell us.
It's like when you see it's like when you see like liberal white women and you're like, who's crazier? The guy that went on like a stabbing spree, stabbing white people because he said that they're all racist, or the liberal white woman that's like, well, I don't know, all white people are racist and they kind of deserve it. And you're like,
yeah,
that sounds about right.
That sounds about right.
She's crazier to me.
Yes. They're all crazy. I mean, are people in California aware of the Daniel Penny trial in New York City?
I've had to explain it to everyone because every time I hear my friends and they're like, I don't get it. Why don't people do anything? And I go, this is exactly why. You have a guy literally with like women and children on a subway screaming, he's going to kill people. And then you choke him out. He happens to die, which is exactly, who cares? Literally, who cares? Glad that's one more person we don't have to pay taxes for to sit in jail forever, who's a sick human being. And if he didn't take care of him, I guess he probably would have hurt someone even worse, or probably like raped and killed a child. So I'm literally like, yeah, that's why men don't step in anymore, because they go to prison.
You know what I remember? I remember when it first happened, and Give, Send, Go is the like conservative free speech version of GoFundMe, and GoFundMe wouldn't allow the fundraiser for Daniel Penny. They wouldn't allow you, the same way that, when Canadian truckers were getting their bank accounts closed, and you could raise money for murderers who were shoving women in front of the subway in New York City. You could raise money for the worst people who were burning cities on fire. You could raise money for George Floyd, for his family on GoFundMe. And with Daniel Penny, I remember donating a very modest amount, but I donated to his Give, Send, Go. And I remember thinking, how outrageous is this that they can't even do this through GoFundMe? That's how deplatformed we are. And it's like, it's such a turn of events to now have the popular vote. And it's pretty amazing to be going into Thanksgiving this week, knowing that we were just proven so right. But there's still all these legacy cases like Daniel Penny. His lawyers already said he's going to need a mistrial because it's been so egregious so far. But it's just crazy to think, a couple years ago, I couldn't give money to Daniel Penny through a regular website. And
I
that's
mean,
why
I'm
we
not, like, what I don't understand is, like, obviously, I'm not a lawyer, but, I kinda would just be, like, on the stand, I'd be like, "I'm sorry, would the better option be he lets this guy murder women and children? I'm confused. Sorry the homeless guy wasn't good at fighting. That's not his problem." Is this really a citizen we're at a loss for? Like, I don't really understand. Like, I would just be like, I would just be looking around and be like, sorry, are we like not on the same page about this? I think this is insane. If you were on that subway, who would you rather have with you? The crackhead threatening to kill you or the guy who's just minding his own business, who's
listen,
probably just a normal person who would also defend you? It's like, it's kind of crazy. I mean, obviously the justice system is completely used against people that do the right thing. We know that.
no, it's like, no,
Um,
the fact that what's his face? And like the media kept portraying, I don't even want to say, I don't remember his name. I don't really care what it is. The homeless guy that wound up dying, not from Daniel Penny. Like the coroner said, it was probably the fact that he was schizophrenic mixed with other things, had drugs in his system. It's just like George Floyd, where like they blame it on someone else. And this case was even more obvious though, that it was not Daniel Penny, that Daniel Penny was really in the right. Immediately you could see from the video. Jordan Neely, but yeah, fuck it. Like,
oh, yeah, yeah.
yeah, Jordan Neely. But they were trying to paint him as like a Michael Jackson impersonator who just loved dancing and singing. It's like, okay, I have friends in New York City who live in that area who knew this guy. Everyone knew this crazy homeless guy, and they were always worried. Like I have a good friend who recently just got engaged, Mabruk to that friend, and he would tell me that like every time you were there, like this guy's gonna shove someone, he's gonna do something with me, like, and of course, and all these guys would just stand around doing nothing. And I remember when I donated to Daniel Penny's Give, Send, Go, not GoFundMe, I wrote, I left New York because there weren't enough men like you. And that's what I
It's
wrote.
so scary too, and the thing is too, it's like the people who should be sticking up for him the most are literally women, and I know, like, right-wing women, like, do, and they're outspoken because we're like, "This is, like, insane," but it's like, you just notice it here, like, every time people get robbed here, there's a bunch of men standing around, and no one does anything, and then also, they robbed some older guy yesterday in front of, like, Go Yard, and he ended up, like, having a seizure after they robbed him because they, like, set him into, like, panic, and I'm just like, "This is so fucked up," and obviously, it's hard. It's like, "Oh, 4 black guys in ski masks." I'm like, "Oh, yeah, that'll be easy to find." And it's just, like, so annoying because I'm like, this is why it's so sketchy. Even when that guy was yelling at me on the street in Orange County, if anyone walked by and saw a man speaking to me like that, they would have fucked him up. They would have beat the shit out of him until he was, like, literally crawling on the ground, and I'm like, "That's how things are supposed to be, okay?" But now you have a bunch of pussies. I mean, granted, not a lot of straight men in this side of town, but you just have a bunch of pussies everywhere, and I'm just like, this is, like, why things are, like, so fucked up and people are allowed to get away with all this shit. I mean, no
Yeah.
one does anything. I'm crazy. If I saw anyone getting mugged or attacked or yelled at, I'm fucking crazy and I would step in and I wouldn't even let that shit fly. But everyone around here is just like, oh, I don't want to get involved. It's like, okay, well, when it comes down to you, I hope you have that same fucking attitude for everyone around you. Like, oh, I'm just a pussy. I don't want to get involved. Like, I'll bite your ankles or something. Something fucking crazy. I don't know.
But
It's sad. It makes it scary as a woman.
it's really scary as a woman. I saw a stat today. The leading report was very misleading, which they honestly tend to do. I don't think they're a very trustworthy Twitter account for anyone who does follow them, for what it's worth. But they posted an infographic from Gallup that said that, and they titled it as "Women Own More Guns Than Men," which is not how I read the graphic. I'm pretty sure they're wrong. I glanced at it before, and it looks like more women purchase more guns, like the delta over the last few years. So the percentage of women is going up. So that like more, like if it went from 10% to 20% of women, whereas men, it went from 30 to 31%. It's like, yeah, okay, like the percentage of women went up. And again, I'm just throwing those numbers out there. Those aren't the actual numbers. But so it's just a misleading caption on the photo. But it's also to say like there's a reason why more women are purchasing firearms. And I mean, just to round out the thing with Daniel Penny, I just want to say he should be a household name the way George Floyd was, because this is a man who was actually heroic and he's become this political scapegoat and everyone should know about him. And I feel like he's been pretty forgotten. And I think we should replace every fucking George Floyd statue in America with a statue of Daniel Penny. That's what I think we should do.
This one I'm sure is going to be a never ending battle. Donald Trump's nominee for Surgeon General has not been well received on social media because not so long ago she had pushed for unscientific, harmful, and draconian COVID measures. I don't know if you guys have seen
I
her.
don't
She was
get this
very,
pick at all. At all.
and all the videos
I'm not a
resurfacing of her
sycophant.
are really bad.
Emily and I are not sycophants. We're never gonna just say something because it's popular. We're not gonna avoid saying something because it might get us like kicked out of, like not in the good graces of MAGA world, even though we're both so MAGA. But this is not MAGA. This woman, I need someone to explain to me like what is happening here. She was pro-mask, pro-vax, pro-isolation for children. I found a news clip of her. I'm sure there were more, but I saw one news clip in particular, end of August 2021. Think about what that means. At that point, I was like leaving New York for Florida because I had had enough. I was almost about to get kicked out of my building in New York City for refusing to comply with the mask mandate. We knew at that point, we knew for a long time how messed up things were. And in August of 2021, she's advocating for children to be jabbed and masked. What?
I'm like, she's almost as bad as the tranny mentally ill surgeon general that we have been dealing with or whatever. I don't know where this came from. I've never heard of this woman. And now, of course, like people are upset about her pro-abortion stance. That I could care less about right now. The fact that she is a pro COVID person, I could not think of a worse person. That is like my one topic. Like I will never stop talking about until
Yeah.
all these people are put in jail for what they did, for the psychosis they put people in, the child abuse. I mean, literal crimes against humanity. These people should all be on trial. And anyone who promoted it, including her, should also be. She's a horrible pick. I pray this does not go through, and I will continue to attack her if she does get pushed through. And, why would he do this? It makes no sense. This is like, she is the swamp.
I don't get this at all. It's the same thing. Like, I don't get I'm just gonna like, I don't get the Kristi Noem DHS thing. I don't get like, there are just so many people who would be better. Like, there are arguments to be made about some of these other positions. I get it, but some of these, you have to wonder what is going on here.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's gonna be so much behind the scenes
around why, but we're not allowed to talk about it.
No, and that's the thing too. I'm like, why? Like, I know all the deep state shit that's going on. I'm not blind to all these things. Like, what power does this woman have? Who does she know? What shady business deals is she doing? This is also why I don't know when people call me a sellout. I'm like, I literally have said if Trump wins, I will be the first to attack anything that if he says that I don't, agree with people he nominates. And this is the first one I have a real fucking problem with, and I'm very worried. I'm very worried.
I just don't. It doesn't actually represent the mandate given to Trump by the American people. Like it's clear, a resounding fuck the jab. I mean, listen, I understand people are saying, oh, it's just like a figurehead position. Like the RFK one is way more important. So what? So what? Why not?
Yeah.
I never remember his name, but we have an amazing Florida Surgeon General. What's his name? He's the one who was like through COVID, not forcing the jab on people. Florida had the vaccine and like they were encouraging older people to get it, not younger people. Super reasonable. Joseph Ladapo is a Nigerian American doctor. And by the way, the Nigerian population in America is one of the most successful immigrant populations in the United States. They are the prime example against the left when they argue that America is racist and that it's systemic and institutional racism that stops Black Americans from succeeding. And all you have to do is point to Nigerian Americans who are, just by skin color, the blackest of Black Africans that you could find. Okay. And I think they're beautiful. And they're just like, I love Nigerian Americans. They're so fucking dank. They're just like awesome people. They're awesome. They're hardworking. I know a ton. Like they're just one of those populations where you're like, they're just so fucking smart and successful. They do so well. And that's why the left hates them. And that would have been the best pick for Trump because it just spits in the face of, it not only spits in the face, which Trump is obviously doing with some of these picks, right? Like he wants to just like give a big middle finger to a lot of people on the left. But this guy has earned it. Like he did an amazing job. This is why I moved to Florida from New York during COVID. This man is unbelievable. He was one of the strongest voices against all the COVID measures that all these other states were doing. And honestly, and I could be totally wrong here. I don't know the inner workings. Things are very complex And once you realize, like, once you get some details around some of these decisions, you realize how little you know with the others. But my guess is that because he's a DeSantis guy and there's obviously a lot of tension between DeSantis and Trump,
Yeah.
that it's just like fucked over this doctor to not, but like I don't want to lose everyone in Florida because everyone is coming from Florida. And now we're losing all these great people, but he just would have been such an excellent pick. I'm really disappointed. There is absolutely no justification for this woman. She came out of nowhere. Nobody knows who she is. I haven't seen a single person vouching for her. The only people I've seen happy about her are people on the left. So tell me how.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, everyone's like Liz Wheeler went after her. I mean, people are posting screenshots. Masks have saved thousands of lives, prevented thousands of infections. I mean, David Wolf, who I love, he was like, she's a deep pharma state nincompoop. She must be stopped. We need to get her out. I mean, everyone's going after her. No one's happy about this.
I don't get it. It honestly feels like, what, is she friends with someone? I don't get it at all.
I don't get it either. That's the most upsetting thing I've seen because I'm like, you guys know, like, that no matter what, they're already creating a new virus. They're going to unleash it. Pharma, big pharma needs their stocks to go back up. They need new vaccines and all these things. And it's scary because it's like they will do it again because they got away with it the first time. They'll push mask mandates. They'll push, like, even when I go into my girlfriend, my best friend's a nurse, and she was like, if you do not get the COVID and flu vaccines, like, what is it, every 6 months now? She was like, you are forced to wear a mask 24/7. So that's the only way that you're allowed to breathe.
Yeah, you don't have to get vaccinated, but if you want to wear a mask for 12 plus hours a day, you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
You don't have a choice.
And that's what's really scary is because she clearly would be complicit with these things. And that's the one topic of any of the topics. I'm like, dude, I don't care about the abortion. I don't care about your thoughts on geopolitical wars or Ukraine or all these different things. But I'm like, this is the one thing in America. I'm like, absolutely not. She's like clearly a leftist and like should be fucking reconsidered.
It makes no sense.
Immediately.
Makes no sense. Yeah.
No. That's very sad.
WTF, Donald Trump. WTF. And honestly, it's one of these moments that makes me like kind of come off the high of the election, right? In a moment like this, because this is our moment to just do all the things we've wanted to do for 4 years. And then this is who the Surgeon General pick is? What? Was it like some deal that they cut with the left to be like, okay, we'll give you, which by the way, you shouldn't be doing because we won the popular vote and we won the House and the Senate. Like, this is ridiculous. We don't have to make concessions like this. We don't. But actually, that does make me think of, I know you wanted to talk about Biden, and I think it's ICBMs, like the long-range ICBMs that he's going to allow Ukraine. They told Ukraine that they could shoot them into Russia, and they started shooting them into Russia. I do want to say something about that, which is about concessions, okay? I actually find it hard to believe, and again, I could be wrong. I am not a DC insider. But as someone who's just observed politics for a long time, and for anyone who doesn't know, but I think anyone listening to this would have heard, that Biden has allowed a longer range missile to be used by Ukraine. Yeah. And Russia came out saying, if you use that, we will consider this not only an act of war on Russia, but we will use a nuclear response. We will respond not in kind, but with nukes, which that's crazy. That's actually crazy. But also, like, yeah, Russia, like, their job is to defend their homeland. Like, people act like it's crazy when Russia doesn't want to get attacked by Ukraine. It's literally their mandate to be their own country. Like, stop acting like it's not. Like, what are they supposed to do? Act like a bunch of pussies and just take missiles and do nothing? Like, that's actually crazy. So, but this is my speculation. I find it hard to believe that this decision was not discussed with the Trump transition team. I have absolutely zero knowledge of this. No one has talked to me about this. I have absolutely no idea. But this is a really big decision. And again, it could just be like, Alex Soros trying to squeeze in his World War III while he can in the last few months. That's obviously a possibility. But it's just like, to have no communication about this doesn't make sense to me. And what I see is like, they know that Trump's going to come in and make them end the war. They know he's going to come in and start cutting deals. And I think that this is just both sides preparing a posture and get to the lines they want to be at. So when Trump comes in, they're like at that moment, frozen in time, that they've done as much as they could. So that way, when Trump disbands everything and the war stops, like they're both just like, it's like the final punt before the buzzer goes off. That's what I think.
Yeah, I mean, Tucker Carlson did a really interesting episode, which is kind of everything I already believed without literally having any knowledge on it whatsoever besides just like a brief history of Ukraine, and just how genuinely corrupt of a place it is, and basically just for like labs and money funneling. And it's so funny because like the guy he was talking to on it was just saying how like, yeah, look at everyone that voted for it in Congress. Like these are all just people clearly benefiting from this and making tons of money. And look at Hunter Biden on, the Department of Energy and all these things in Ukraine. So it's obviously very shady. So I would never trust a war we're funding. And when we're sending this amount of money, what's crazy is I don't really think people understand how much money this is. This is enough money that you could go build Dubai again. And somehow all this money is where? It's where? It's in some weapons? Absolutely not. The American people do not authorize our weapons to be sent over there for a war we have no business being
Yeah.
in. Since this war has started, I have told people if you the pro Ukrainian bio, that's great. It's sad. People die. It's war. I understand that. It's also a war we should not be in and we have nothing to do with,
Yeah.
except for maybe Biden's family has a lot to do with it. And I say Hunter goes to the front fucking lines. I see he's busy at Disneyland, but that's where he should be. And I tell people if you believe for a second Ukraine in any way, shape, or form would have more than a 1% chance of winning against Russia, you are mentally fucking insane. It's not even a, that is literally me against 100 guys. It's not possible. It's never going to be possible. So then you have to think, well, if it's not possible, then what the fuck is going on behind the scenes here? Yeah, probably a lot of shady shit and a lot of money funneling. And he
Mhm.
knows that when Trump's in office, he's going to stop the war and he's going to stop the money. So they're going to do everything they can to try to ruin Trump's presidency and to get everything done as soon as possible. But yeah, on behalf of the American people, I think Biden should be answering a lot of questions right now and should be held accountable for anything that happens. I just think, like, in what world do you think Ukraine could win against fucking Russia, one of the most like
Yeah.
brutal superpowers on the planet,
Yeah.
with the toughest people, might I add?
Yeah. It's interesting you're saying that because something I spoke about earlier on my live stream on X was, which I'm just doing like shooting from the hip every day. And or as I say, I'm just like, I'm raw dogging live stream on X because I think everyone else who's live streaming on X, it's like Charlie Kirk has a real show and it just gets straight. And like he uses one of those platforms that streams to YouTube, Rumble. I don't know if he's on YouTube, but assuming like YouTube, Rumble, and X. And I'm just actually using the live stream functionality on X and it does not work well. And I'm harassing this poor guy on the product team over at X every day. And I'm like, this didn't work. Someone called me last week and my live stream just cut because I didn't put my phone on do not disturb in my live stream. Instead of like, I couldn't delete the call when the call came in. My live
Oh
stream
my
just cut
god.
away. And I had like 1,200 people on my live stream. And it just cut out. Um, but anyways, what I was saying earlier today is that people often talk about Putin as being this crazy guy, right? And especially on the left, they talked about this a lot, especially during Trump's first administration when they were trying to claim that it was Russian election interference, that that Trump was friends with Putin and that they're both crazy and that the whole thing was crazy, right? Everyone's crazy, Putin's crazy, Trump's crazy. And they do that obviously to devalue them, demean them, and make it like boogeyman fear, right? Fear mongering. But what people need to recognize, and when you study international security theory, like deterrence, compellence, all these things, you talk about rational actors and irrational actor. An irrational actor is someone like when they say crazy, and people will say Putin's this irrational actor. He's the most rational villain on the planet. Just because he's a villain, just because he's opposed to our values, does not make him irrational. He's highly rational and predictable for for his values, for his beliefs, right? And so until the last year, I would say I actually think he's done some things in the last year, 2 years maybe, where I think his age, he's becoming more senile. I do think he is starting to get a little less predictable. But the man, like his goals have been clear. And if you watch interviews of him from decades ago, he's saying his goals about Crimea and Ukraine. He's saying the same stuff. Like it's like, his invasion, he's been saying since Obama, especially, he really turned the temperature up. And we've known what his aspirations are. And we know that he's going to be the man. He wants to be the leader for Mother Russia who expands the borders. That's his goal. He's not going to be the man that loses in Ukraine. So it's all to say, I just think that, like, the left tries, and even on the right, because we're getting to this point where we're getting like a little too like blinded with white rage that we can't see. I don't say white like in terms of, like the when you only see white in your vision, like white vision, but we're so blinded by rage that we can't see like really basic things. Like Putin is rational. That's why Trump being friendly with him was a good thing also, because what happened in the absence, in this vacuum of friendship with Trump? And when I say friendship, I mean just like a cordial working relationship where we were able to keep things in check under Trump. What happened? They're cozy with China. They're cozy with Iran. I mean, I happen to know I have friends who are living in Mexico who are telling me that Russia Times is advertising all over Mexico right now. Like, this is serious stuff. And that's what happens when you're not like people were making fun of Trump and calling him, saying that he was in bed with Russia. No, the man knew how to keep things balanced, how to stop Russia from going off the fucking deep end. And and now they're like literally best buddies with Iran and China. So who was right in the end?
Yeah, and especially, like, everything they tried to claim they were actually, doing and they lied about. But, yeah, it's, like, it's so funny because there was a article out and all the comments were like, "Oh my god, how horrible. He's trying to be friends with all these people who could make our lives really dangerous and a living hell." And I'm like, "Yeah, what a crazy idea that maybe that might be a good thing to do instead of Biden in charge, who's sitting there walking off a stage like this into a fucking forest,
Yeah,
which is the
to the
craziest
jungle.
video I've ever
Into the jungle.
seen.
It looks like
Like, you're literally
AI.
like,
It actually looks like
you
AI.
I thought it was fake. You're like, "How the fuck is this even real?" But I'm like, "Yeah, no, it's much more better that, every country, knows our president is currently not alive and
Yeah.
is taking advantage of." That's way better than, having a strong leader. And also, it's funny because like, everyone is so quick to go crazy about Russia and Putin and all these different things. And I'm like, "Well, I mean, he did sit down for a interview with Tucker Carlson, so he's clearly level-minded enough to do something like that." If you saw the people that wanted to take power after him, they make him look like actually a pretty chill guy, which is so funny because people are so obsessed with getting him out. Like they're
Uh,
gonna elect a fucking tranny next?
mhm.
It's Russia. You guys are like out of your fucking minds. This is not a
This is not a
progressive place. And he's also a leader that cares about his people. Like, the thing
Yeah.
is with Russia is, like, he doesn't let them poison their citizens with shit in their food. He gives people, like he has them, have ability to get farmland, to do all these different things. He actually, I do believe, wants his people to be the strongest, smartest, and healthiest
Mm.
people. Obviously, I know he's not exactly a liberal progressive leader, but, I do think he also has a lot of good intentions for his people as well.
Everyone's gonna be mad at us for this because it's like they're gonna say we're pro Russia, which we're not. But just call a spade a spade. Just call things as they are. Otherwise, people don't respect you. So let's talk about the fact that Putin has stopped adoption of Russian kids to countries that allow for child sex change surgeries. I think that's based as fuck. I think that's based as fuck, and he might help some countries stop that if like they know that they like a lot of families look to adopt from Russia. Yeah, why would you just volunteer? And to your point, which is like actually wanting what's best for your population. I know people can disagree on that, or like obviously we have different ideas of how that's accomplished. Like I don't agree with how Putin does it, and like not at all. Like he's a dictator, whereas there's like benevolent dictatorship in other places. He's not a benevolent dictator, but he does care about the. And also, listen, someone could argue maybe it's to prove a point with certain countries, but okay, so what? So what? If it's to prove a point, if you're telling me that he's going to stop some kid from getting chemical castration that will permanently make them infertile, probably never achieve orgasm, just be miserable, that's a good thing. It's a good thing that he's
Yeah,
stopping
I
that.
mean,
So,
also, you don't have to be pro or anti, like, literally anything. You can just look at it for what it is. Like, I don't live there. I'm not going to live there. My best friend is from Moscow. It's a beautiful place. Fantastic. A lot of fantastic people come out of it. I mean, it's literally unbelievable. You can like look at the subways there. And it's kind of funny because, like, no offense, look at there compared to where we are, where I have to see guys' dicks in public and everyone's pissing all over and the place is a shithole. So you know what? Maybe he does some things that are good. And you can do good things and bad things. I can tell you they're probably not
yeah.
talking about gender theory and transitioning kids over there. They're probably
Yeah.
a lot more intelligent, actually like working, doing things to be productive. So you can, say positive things and bad things. I think Russia's a very beautiful place. I'd like to go there. I mean, it's also like
I would definitely
people
not go
forget
right now.
historic.
We would for
What?
Emily. We would be because here we would get caught like who's that fake woman lesbian basketball player Brittany
Oh,
Griner.
Brittany Griner?
Brittany Griner. So the fake because she's like, is she a man? I'm not sure,
I
but
think she's a dude.
I think she's a dude. But also I feel like would Russia have said that? Like would they like have been like, by the way, your WNBA player is actually a man? To be like, they obviously know from like having her. But anyways,
What about
if we
based?
ever went to Russia, at least with the way things are right now, we would for sure be sent to the gulags. Like no doubt. We wouldn't make it out of Russia. We can't go to Russia.
I would
This is
love to be in some
to be
form
clear,
of
this is
high
not a
leadership
pro
there.
Russia segment, but in order to deal with an enemy nation like Russia, you have to understand them and you have to be realistic. And it's not realistic the way we talk about them right now. It just isn't.
I don't even see them as an enemy nation. I just see them as
I
people
do.
who don't
They for
want
sure
their
are.
country to go south, like ours has.
I think that Trump could bring us back to a good place with them. Although I will say, Vladimir Putin has so much filler in his face. He's starting to get that Chrissy Teigen face. You know, his face
Oh,
is
is
just
he?
it's so bloated from filler. He looks like Chrissy Teigen.
She's terrifying looking. She just has that bloated filler face.
And she's a bigger terrorist than he is. You know, she told a 16-year-old, she told minors to go kill themselves.
Why
And
did she tell them to go kill themselves? I'm so curious.
she's a bully. And or I don't know what kind of parties she's been at. But then on top of that, what I love is that her husband, John Legend, previously dated Osama bin Laden's niece. And I actually think that Chrissy Teigen is the bigger terrorist.
Oh my God, I went down a rabbit hole on Osama bin Laden's niece and like was seeing all these photos of her in these like crazy like designer outfits and like luxury gowns at like these parties with celebrities and shit. I was like, what a crazy life. I think it's
Crazy life. Well, it's like
kind
that
of cool.
happens with all these people, like all these terrorists, their kids and their nieces and nephews, whatever. They're all like living up the big life in London and Paris and whatever. They're, like
Yeah.
crazy. And usually dressed like hoes while their home countries, they'd have to be in a burqa.
She had like a fucking crazy slutty like Dolce and Gabbana like cheetah dress on in the photo I was seeing, and I was like, God, what a vibe. Like also like, ugh,
What a
I just like I
vibe.
wish I was in your shoes for like 1 hour. It'd be so fun.
To be in the shoes of Osama bin Laden's niece for just 1 hour.
Slay. To go through his hard drive for just 1 hour.
Oh my God. Do you know on his hard drive, he had a photo of Avril Lavigne, but like not a sexual photo, like her showing up to some like movie premiere, to some club or whatever with one of these like other short Disney actors. It's a very funny photo. And I often think about this photo and the fact
Why
that
does no one have a documentary on that?
it's
Like
talked about
on what was on his
sometimes.
hard drive?
It's one of these like niche things that gets spoken about of the weird things, like not the classically weird things. Like he had a ton of porn on his hard drive. It's not that. It's like the weird photo of Avril Lavigne that should be spoken about more for sure. And we should dissect this.
And he was like obsessed with dolphins.
Was he really?
Apparently that was on the hard drive. Yeah. I tried to download the whole hard drive, but I have a MacBook Air at one of my last jobs and it didn't work because I was like so interested. And there's like pages you can go through that says everything, like what was in it. But I'm like, I would do literally a 10-week segment just unpacking his hard drive. I think that would be more interesting.
We should ask people, tell us in the comments if you want us to do a special series on the hard drive contents of Osama bin Laden. But I will say, Emily Wilson, Emily Saves America, trying to download the entirety of the contents of Osama bin Laden's hard drive on her MacBook Air while at work. You know what I love? That I'm still learning all these new things about you. You know, like that's
my job
special.
that I was not good at.
That's special. Oh yeah, and by the way, that's why Emily didn't stay at that job for long, because they realized, oh, you tried using a company laptop and a MacBook Air, not even a MacBook Pro, to download, again, just to be clear, the full contents of Osama bin Laden's hard drive.
Yeah, you can't download anything on a MacBook Air, especially Osama bin Laden's hard drive because it's so large.
Oh my God.
I hope this is an ad for Best Buy to get a
No,
new MacBook Pro.
It's an ad for Pornhub. It's an ad for Pornhub. Like, go to the website because you don't have to download it onto your hard drive. Because all he had was porn and a photo of Avril Lavigne in like that old, like the way people used to dress, where she's in like a tank top with the the tie, the loose tie, and like loose baggy. I think they were like cargo pants. You
Such
know,
a vibe though. That's such a vibe.
I don't want to go back to that vibe. I don't. But like the loose, remember that the loose that was so simple. Now we have to wear like nice dresses that are all cut out and high heels. Maybe I would go back to like the Converse loose tie cargo pants look, but no, I can't.
I'm like looking at my reading list because I have everything saved on my phone if I want to make sure I don't lose it in case my tabs ever close. And
Mhm.
I'm like looking specifically for Bin Laden's hard drive, and it's like healthier Kung Pao chicken, paleo Chinese orange chicken recipe, and then it's just like,
Well, I will say this is the perfect note to end on because we're at time and my computer is about to die, which is not great. So I will be purchasing a new laptop in the next week to fix all these issues. But I think this was a very fun holiday edition. And we learned a lot about Emily's internet search habits. So, guys, we hope you have a great Thanksgiving. I'm sure there's going to be lots to talk about next week. I'm sure Elizabeth Warren's going to have a meltdown this week that we'll talk
oh god,
about Thanksgiving and how her people,
she's
uh,
still in like Alaska. Oh no, that's Elizabeth or that's Sarah Palin. Never mind.
but thank you so much. Happy holidays, happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next
Oh
week.
yeah, it's this Thursday. Happy Thanksgiving, guys.
Bye.
Enjoy.